Power Apps now has 4 completely different ways to build an app. One of them became generally available last month, one of them is still in preview, and one of them, I think, is on its way out. My name is Howden Rashid, Microsoft MVP, MCT, and founder of Powercademy, where we help businesses empower their teams with Power Platform and AI. And today I want to break down every single way that you can build a Power App in 2026. I'll show you each one in action with a small demo and exactly where I think you should be putting your time. So Power Apps has evolved a lot, especially in the last 12 months. We've gone from previously having just 2 ways to build, Canvas app and model-driven apps, to now having 4 distinct approaches, each with their pros and cons. So let's start with the one that everyone already knows. Canvas apps, right? This is the OG, and this is where I started my Power Platform journey. And I think it's what most people think about when they think about Power Apps. You get a blank screen, you drag and drop different components, and you power them with Power FX. You design every single pixel yourself, and that's always been a huge selling point of Canvas apps. You get the flexibility of the Microsoft ecosystem, the pixel perfect design, and of course not needing to know how to code to actually build functional applications. Canvas apps connect to basically everything from Dataverse to SQL to Excel, so you can build applications on top of data sources that you're already using and love. One of the genuine advantages of Canvas apps in comparison to the other 3 is the fact that you don't need a premium license. You are restricted in a lot of the things that you can do with Canvas apps, but the thing is you don't actually need one if you use the right data sources. So things like SharePoint and Excel don't actually require premium licensing, which a lot of citizen developers and companies actually build their solutions on because of that. But, and this is a big but, Canvas apps have a lot of limitations, and as you can see here, delegation limits, performance at scale, and of course maintenance complexity. I don't want to get into all of them in immense detail, but performance has always been a big con of Canvas apps. You have to do a lot of things to get around the limitations of Canvas apps to actually make it perform in the way that you want it to, especially if you're dealing with a lot of data. Performance can go down dramatically, especially if you have a 30-screen Canvas app with a bunch of formulas and Power FX going all over it. Things can become very slow and very tedious. And don't even get me started on trying to reverse engineer a Canvas app that another developer has built, especially if it has that complexity. It is genuinely one of the hardest things to do. But let me show you quickly how to build a simple Canvas app within the UI. So I'm in my Power Apps Maker Studio, and what we actually want to build is an IT help desk ticket submission app. So users have a form where they submit a ticket with a title, description, priority, and they can see existing tickets. Now the first thing we've done is we've created a solution for this called IT help desk, and we have a table called IT tickets, which store the tickets that we need. Now what we do is come into apps. To create the Canvas app, we'll come to new, app, Canvas app. We'll give this a name, so we'll just call this IT help desk ticket submission app. We'll choose the tablet option and we'll select create. And you can see we're being welcomed into the Power App Studio, and we're just going to select skip here, and we're going to add the first data source. So we're going to come into data, add data, and we're going to look for tickets and find the IT ticket table that we created. We're going to click on this. We're going to wait for this to load to actually connect to our Dataverse data source. You can see that that's been added to the application. So now what we can do is come into insert, form, and we can connect directly to the IT tickets table. We're going to click on this, and you can see the fields that are on our table have been pulled into this application. Now I have full customization of the way this looks and feels, so I can make this a bit bigger. I'm going to move this over to the left in the corner, or better yet, we're just going to make it the size that it needs to be. We're going to come into the fields that were pulled in with the form. We're going to remove some, so record created on we don't need, import sequence number we don't need, assign to we do need. We don't need status reason, so we'll remove that too. We'll come onto the form, we'll change the form type. So go to default mode, we're gonna make the default mode new. So now when we preview this, we can actually submit the form. We need a button to submit, so I'm going to insert, button. I'm gonna take this, make it a little bit bigger. I'm just gonna put it here. We'll change the text to submit. As you can see, we can change the colors and the dimensions of this button. So if I come into color palette here, I can change them. We're going to go with this color. And now we're going to use Power FX to submit the form. So we're going to click on this, go to on select, and we're going to do submit form, form 1, because that's the name of this form. And you can see it's highlighted to show that this is what we're actually selecting in this case. And now what's going to happen if I come into here, and let's say I put in a test record, assign it to myself and submit. You can see we don't have any navigation components, so it's just going to reset the form. But if I go into Dataverse and refresh, you can see that that's been created here. What we can do also is come into the screen views, go into new screen, just going to go into a blank screen. And here we can also insert a gallery. So I'll come into vertical gallery on the components. I'm going to connect to my IT tickets. And you can see now, formatted very poorly, but I can see each individual record within my table. So I'm going to change from image and instead just do title, subtitle, and body. You can see everything's connected to the title in this case, so we actually want to change that. We can do that by coming here and selecting edit, clicking on these individual records, and let's say we'll come into here and do status, use new status, and then we can change this one to priority. And we can do all sorts of formatting, like concatenating different fields together. So if I come into here and cut this formula for the priority and do concatenate, I can concatenate the word priority like this, comma, this item.priority, close, and you can see I can format exactly the way that this will look and feel. So this is the essence of a Canvas app, right? I have full design flexibility, I can bring in data, I can submit records, and it's very good for that flexibility. Now I want to call out some of the pain points here, now specifically here in this formula bar. Now imagine this app has 30 screens and 200 formulas scattered across different controls, and that's where Canvas apps really do start to hurt. If someone else built this, you need to figure out how it works. You need to click through every single control, check every formula, and there are ways to dig into the code view as well, but then you lose the essence of what a Canvas app is supposed to be, which is low code. So my honest take of Canvas apps in 2026 is it's still being used, it's still being maintained. We're seeing that through quality of life improvements that Microsoft are pushing, but it does seem to me that these are more nice to haves than things that are game changing are going to revolutionize Canvas apps. I think honestly Canvas apps will stay the way they are, and Microsoft are going to put the investment into the 3 other areas that we're going to speak about in this video. Now with that being said, Canvas apps aren't being deprecated anytime soon. There are still a lot of organizations that depend on this type of technology. And of course it always has that benefit where if you're actually building on SharePoint or Excel or these standard connectors, you can actually build for free and your users can use this as long as they have a Microsoft license. But again, if I'm investing where I want to put my learning time or my development time right now, I wouldn't put them in Canvas apps. So keep watching to see the other options. So Canvas apps does give you a lot of that control, but at a cost. So let me show you the other end of the spectrum where the platform actually does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. So now I want to talk through model-driven apps, which is the engine of the Power Platform. So as Canvas apps was pixel perfect control, you can really design the look and feel of the application, how each and individual button works. Model-driven apps are a little bit different. You model in Dataverse first, and then it builds the UI for you. You can see on the right-hand side, this is a form within a model-driven app, and each form, you can change where the fields are located, you can change the logic, but in general, model-driven app forms look very similar to this. When you model your table and your relationships, you get all of the advantage of Dataverse as well, so things like business rules and security roles. And this is what takes model-driven apps from just being a standard CRM to something that enterprises use on a day-to-day basis. Now, model-driven apps aren't going to win any awards on UI, so if you're looking for an experience where users might need to use it on their phones or have an application that's super accessible to them, Canvas apps are the way to go. But if you're managing a lot of data and you need a lot of different people to have access to that data conditionally, model-driven apps are generally the best practice approach. Just my personal touch here, I'm seeing a lot of investment still going into model-driven apps like the M365 Copilot chat directly in the interface now. So I do still see this as worthwhile in investing your time in. But let me show you very quickly how it looks like if we just build one from scratch. Okay, so I've opened up my IT help desk solution and you can see I'm in the IT tickets table. Now when the table loads, you'll see the different columns that I've created like title, description, status, assigned to, and priority. And this is the same data that we used in the Canvas apps. But now, instead of dragging controls onto the screen and wiring them up to PowerFX, I'm going to let the platform build the app for me. So what I'm going to do is come into Apps, New, App, and then Model-Driven App. We're just going to give this the same name and just type in MDA for Model-Driven App and create. And now you can see it just gives us this blank interface. But what we're going to do is go to Add Page. Now we can do something called generative pages, which is out of scope for this video. But we're going to just select Dataverse table in this case, click on this, and we're going to pull in the IT tickets table, type this in, make sure show in navigation is selected and select add. And now look at what the platform is doing. It's generated me a view, where we call this in model-driven app, where we can view the rows of data in the table. It's generated me a custom form, so if I double click into these different records, I can view the different data points as well. And it's done this all within a few seconds of me just adding the table to the application. Now again, I get some very standard customization, so I can change this new group label, I can change the way that these forms are structured, I can modify what some of these commands do here. But a model-driven app is traditionally, you get the left-hand navigation and you get all of your work happening in the middle. If I go back, I've already got an active tickets view and I've got an inactive tickets view for the way statuses are managed in Dataverse. And I've even got the benefit of modifying these forms and views as I'd like. So if I come into here, click on this arrow and select this pen button to edit, we're just going to save and continue. As you can see, I can modify the way this form looks, of course limited to the capabilities of a model-driven app. So whereas Canvas app again was pixel perfect, here I can just move this in between the different fields, or in the header in this case, so we're going to do that. And I've got standard Dataverse and model-driven app functionality like business rules. So business rules are just effectively logic within your model-driven app forms. Let's just take an arbitrary example in this case, where we're going to say if the priority is high, then the assigned to is going to become required. We're going to go to new business rule. It's going to open up a tab for us. And you can see this builder view opens up. We can give this a name. So we can say if priority is high, make assigned to required. And then we can define the conditions. So we can come into the field. We'll go to priority. If it's high or critical in this case, I don't know. I forgot critical was there. So we're just going to select both. We're going to come to apply, make the display name if high or critical, apply. Then we will come into add and then set business required, come into the yes condition, and then we're going to make assigned to required. Come into here, go to assigned to, and set this to business required. Make sure we apply. And then what we're going to do is come into here, copy it, paste down here, make this one not required. So assigned to will not be required if it's not high or critical. We're going to apply here as well, and then we're going to save. And you can see just like that, I've added simple logic into my form. So we're going to activate this. It's going to give us this pop-up and we'll select activate. And then now we can just go ahead and close this business rule. Ensure we save and publish our form, and we should see the active business rule showing up here on the left-hand side in due time. It's now saved and published, so let's go and test that. We'll go back. What's quite nice is we can preview it in the middle once it's loaded. So we can come into the form, come into here, and the priority in this case is high, so assigned to is required, but if we change this to low, you can see it becomes not required. So that business logic is working. So my honest take on model-driven apps, I genuinely don't think they're going anywhere. If anything, I can see more investment going into it and them just getting stronger. Things like Copilot integration, in general, if you see Copilot being integrated into anything, it means it's somewhat, at least on Microsoft's minds, in terms of keeping that product or service going. Of course, the governance that this helps with, it sits on top of Dataverse as well, which is the native database of the Power Platform. And I think in general, there's just so many companies and businesses that are already using Dynamics CRM, which is effectively a model-driven app. So again, I don't think these are going anywhere. And I'm also confident about this because we speak a lot about vibe coding and Claude Code and all of these tools that allow us to build CRMs and basic working CRUD applications. But to build the security roles and the functionality of data security within model-driven apps, if you were to vibe code it or use something like a code app, which we're going to discuss later, it's going to take a lot longer and a lot more consideration. So I do see organizations still defaulting to model-driven apps when they do make sense. I think every Power Platform developer and consultant should at least have a foundation in model-driven apps. Even if one day they do become deprecated for whatever reason, I think the skills that you learn in learning model-driven apps is going to help you throughout your career. That's because you're learning tables, relationships, columns, data management, data security. There's just so much there that you're going to be learning if you pick up the skill of model-driven apps. Anyway, I showed you model-driven apps. It's still getting investment. It works really well. Now let me show you something that just became generally available last month. Power Apps Code Apps. So brand new in terms of being production ready, and most people in the Power Platform haven't even touched them yet. Code apps effectively allow you to build a web application using proper code. So that's React, Vue, JavaScript, in your own IDE like Visual Studio Code, and then you deploy it into the Power Platform. And here's the magic, right? Once it's deployed, you manage it as a Power Platform governed asset. It gets automatic Entra ID authentication, and you can also run the data loss prevention policies at runtime. And of course, you can contain these in your solutions, and you effectively have the Power Platform lifecycle management through code apps as well. So you get the flexibility of real code, so any UI you want, any library, any customization, with the governance and security of the Power Platform. Now, here's why I think this matters for the Power Apps and Power Platform community in general. I think code apps are what Canvas apps will eventually become. Of course, Canvas apps and that layer of drag and drop has its limitations. It's limited to what Microsoft give you outside of custom development. But code gives you unlimited customization. And now you can run that code inside of Power Platform with all of the guardrails associated to it. One thing that's super important to consider though is at the time of recording, Code apps require Power Apps Premium licensing. There's no free tier like Canvas apps are if you work around SharePoint and other data sources. And if budget is a primary concern, that's a real consideration. And I know some of you are thinking as I talk through this, I don't write code, this isn't for me. But with AI coding tools like Claude Code and GitHub Copilot, you can get really far in terms of building an MVP and actually showing it to leadership or whoever you want to show that to. You don't necessarily need to be a React expert to get something functional and working nowadays. Now, obviously, I always add this disclaimer, but don't add anything into production that you yourself don't understand or a professional developer hasn't reviewed first. But AI tools are genuinely bridging this gap between people who don't know how to code and people who do. And we have to admit to ourselves that that's a gap that's continuously closing as the days go by. One more thing before I demo this, the Vibe Apps experience I'm going to show you after this, it generates code apps under the hood. So it's the same technology, but a different entry point. So that's a key point to remember, but yeah, just something to keep in mind. So let me show you how this works. Okay, awesome. So to start this, we're going to need a few prerequisites installed. So firstly, VS Code, which is our IDE. It's Microsoft's free code editor, and if you haven't used it, go download it, it's free. The next few things I'm going to show you through the terminal. So we're going to go to terminal and then new terminal. Should make this a little bit bigger. And we're going to run node-v. And this gives us the version number for node.js. And this is the runtime that lets you run JavaScript outside a browser. And you effectively need this to build and run React apps locally. Then you're going to need Node Package Manager or NPM. So to make sure I have this, I'm going to type in npm-v. You can see I've got the version of that as well. And this handles installing all the libraries and dependencies that your project needs. And it does come bundled with Node.js, but you need to make sure that you do have it. And the final thing you need is the pack CLI. So if I come on the left-hand side, you can see I already have this installed here. And to install this, you come into extensions and you just type in Power Platform, and you need to get this Power Platform Tools extension installed. So 4 things: VS Code, Node.js, NPM, and the Power Platform CLI. It takes 15 minutes to set up if you don't have them already. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is scaffold the project. So we're going to go to new terminal, and we're going to run the command npx-dgit, and then Microsoft have given you a template to start by. And the template goes here. So you have Microsoft/PowerAppsCodeApp/template/starter, and then you give the name of your application. So in our case, it's IT Help Desk Code App. So then we're going to select enter. We're just going to close these extensions as well. You can see that that's cloned now. And now that's cloned, what we want to do is navigate to the folder it's created. So we're going to type in cd IT Help Desk Code App, select enter, and you can see our path is now the folder. And then we want to run npm install. And this will install all of the dependencies that we need. And again, to summarize, this gives us the boilerplate, so we're not starting from nothing. Microsoft gives us the starter templates to use and the base project structure. Okay, awesome. You can see that that's been installed. And now we want to authenticate and set the environment in the Power Platform. And we use that using the Power Platform tools that we installed. So when we want to use the Power Platform CLI, we run pack, and then we have different commands. So auth create allows us to authenticate using our browser. So you can see now I can sign in, and you can see it's authenticated. And now we're going to select the environment by typing in pack org select. You can see it's given us the different environments, and we can do up down to select the environment. So we're just going to go to YouTube development, click on this, and it's selected that environment now. And then the final thing we want to do is type pack code init, 2 dashes, name, IT Help Desk. Well, this would be the name of your application, but in our case, it's IT Help Desk Code App. And what this is going to do is link our local folder. I just tried to run using an older syntax, but it's been updated. So what we were trying to do is connect our local project to our Power Platform environment. So when I deploy, this is where it goes. So what I want to do is type in pack code init, 2 dashes, display name, and then we're going to call it IT Help Desk Code App, and we're going to select enter. You can see it tells us who we're connected as, and I wouldn't worry about the assertion failure, but now if we come into file, open folder, and now if I open up my IT Help Desk Code App, select the folder, you can see that that's opened up for me. So now once I've selected on the folder and I've got the project initialized, what I can do is select Claude Code here because I have the extension installed, and I can give it a prompt to build me the scaffolding of the project that I want. For anyone who doesn't know what Claude Code is, it's an AI coding tool from Anthropic that runs right within your terminal. So it's effectively going to read these files for me here and make adjustments based on what I tell it to do. So I've got this prompt already created. I need you to build me an IT Help Desk ticket app using React. It should have a form where users can submit a ticket. It should have a list view, and the app needs to connect to a Dataverse table called IT Tickets. So now if I enter this, you're going to see it's going to start doing its work. It's going to read my files. It's going to understand what's in them, and it's going to make the changes accordingly. You can see it's exploring the project structure. It's reading all the files, and I'm going to need the terminal. So if anyone wants their terminal, they can just come into here and scroll up and make sure you've got terminal selected. You can see it's created a set of to-dos for itself as well, and it's just going through them and working through them. And then we're just going to let this do its work. Maybe we'll go grab a coffee or something, and we'll come back and see what it's produced for us. Awesome, so it's given us the new files it's created, the updated files. And now if we run npm run dev, you can see it's going to give us a link to a local host. And if I click on it, it will take me to the finished product. And now if I come in and put in a test ticket, set the priority, and submit the ticket, and you can see we've got a few bugs already, so we can just do iterations with Claude AI and try and get this all fixed. And again, I want to show these so you can see that there are drawbacks of doing it this way, of course. It expects a Dataverse table named CR tickets. Now, I don't think this is the logical name of our Dataverse table. So if I come into our Power Platform environment, go into our solution, come into the IT tickets table, and I'll come into the properties here. And you can see this is called new IT tickets instead. So we're going to take this and we're just going to prompt Claude Code to fix that. So you can see the columns are also wrong, so we're just going to update these two. And you can see we've given it that prompt so it can go and do what it needs to do. And you can see it's told us what it's fixed. So now what we're going to do is run the same command and give it another test. Okay, so now I've tested this and tried to submit a ticket. You can see it's not working. And the reason for this is because we need to deploy it into our Power Platform environment so it can actually access the new tables. So what we're going to do is Control-C to get out of the runtime. And then we're going to do pack code push. And what that's going to do is connect it to our Power Platform environment. You can see the app is pushed successfully. It says we can play the app at this link, so we're just going to control and click. So we're just going to copy the link, come into our browser, play the application. And now we've deployed it. If I come into apps, you can see the IT Help Desk Code app. I can go to play here. And you can see in this case, it hasn't worked for us. Now again, this is the unfortunate truth of vibe coding these types of applications. They do take iterations. You do need to see what hasn't worked, what has worked. But again, I don't want to edit this out because I want to show you the limitations of these different tools. But what's important is you can see the full UI mockup has been generated for us. We can add things, we can change things, and we can connect it to our Dataverse tables. As you saw, you get full UI control, and even without knowing coding, you can build a simple mockup or an MVP, which can then be reviewed and iterated on. The trade-off, of course, is the licensing. To run a code app, you do need premium licensing. But if your organization is already using Dataverse, then the value of the code app is very high. Of course, you get the flexibility, you get the governance, and if you're already using Dataverse, then you get the benefits built in. So if you're a Power Platform person who's curious about code, this is a really good place to get stuck in with. Okay, so I just used an AI tool in my terminal to build a code app. But what if you didn't need to go to the terminal? What if you could do this entirely from the browser? That's the next one. So let's talk about Vibe apps. So this is the new experience at vibe.powerapps.com. It was announced in late 2025 and it's currently in preview, only available in US domains at the moment. The experience is you type a prompt and the agents that Microsoft have pre-built for you design your Dataverse tables, relationships, they write the React code for you, and you can get an app working in minutes. So whereas you just saw me, fail miserably in terms of connecting the code app to Dataverse data, with vibe.powerapps.com, it already has that context of your Dataverse environment. Now, there are lots of vibe coding tools out there right now, but what makes a difference is this one deploys to the Power Platform. Again, you get Dataverse context, you get the connectors, you get the governance. So it's not just a pretty prototype built on Lovable or Claude Code or something, it's ready for use. Well, it will be when it comes out of preview. Again, I'm going to be very honest about its limitations. It's still in preview, there's no version history, and you can't edit apps outside the Vibe experience. There's a prompt limit, and sometimes AI generates code that just breaks. So it's impressive, but again, it's not production ready yet. Let me show you what it looks like. So I've come to the YouTube environment where we're in the US domain, and I can see Vibe coding here in the top left. I can select try now, and it will take me to an entirely different interface. If I go to select another environment, we're going to select the YouTube development, click on this, and you can see we get a very simple interface, home, plans, and apps. Now if I go to home and I put in a simple prompt like this, where I'm building the same IT help desk ticketing app, but something I want to mention here is I want it to use the table that I already have. So let's see if it can do that for us. I'm just gonna get the logical name of the table, which is new IT tickets. And we're just gonna add a second layer of this prompt to say, please use this table. We're gonna submit the project description and we're gonna see what it creates for us. You can see slowly, it's telling us what it's doing. You can see it's generating a plan for building. And if you come into here, you can see step by step what it's actually thinking about. On the right-hand side, I can see the app that it's building. I can see 3 different tabs as well. So app, data, and plan. If I click onto plan, I can see step by step what it's actually doing. It's even adding me agents, which I didn't really ask for, but it's just decided to do it anyway. And you can see after it's finished, it's creating me this application. You can see it's using the Dataverse table, so I can open these tickets. And you can see it's created me the application here. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, just at a glance, I don't think it's actually picked up on the use of my Dataverse table, which is why it's on preview, but you can see the screen that it's built me in a matter of a few minutes. I can submit tickets, I can view my tickets, I can go to an agent dashboard as well, where I can monitor the workload of everyone. And it's just built me this full interactive website/application for me. I can come into the code view as well and see exactly how it's built it. I can come into data as well and see what tables it's using. And you can see it's created me some new draft tables rather than using the existing one. And even in the plan, I can see step by step what it's actually thinking about and doing. And of course I can iterate on this based off of this. So I can say, add me a dark mode feature and make it the default. So I'll select enter, it's gonna work on our request, it's gonna get this added for us. And if you think about how simple this is, I think this could even replace what we're doing with code apps as well, because it's effectively just built us a code app, the data structure, the agents that are relating to that, and it's built us our use case in minutes. Now don't get me wrong, this has to be tested, it has to be iterated on, we have to make sure that it's working and ready for production. But you can see the direction that Microsoft are moving in and the investment that this is getting. Like, this did not look like this a few months ago. You can see right in front of me it's changed, it's giving me the dark mode as a default, and it's giving me an option to change it here. In my opinion, Vibe apps are the most exciting thing that's happening within Power Apps right now, and honestly within the Power Platform ecosystem. You can see what they're doing, trying to follow suit of competitors like Lovable and of course Claude Code, which allow you to build this kind of tooling from scratch, and baking that in within the Microsoft ecosystem. My advice is start experimenting with this now, especially if you have availability within your region and you're based in the US. If you're not based in the US, you can create an environment and set the environment to US so you can actually experiment with this. But obviously don't ship anything in production with this yet. It's definitely not going to work in the way that you expect it to. I do genuinely believe that when this comes out and becomes generally available, it will change everything across this ecosystem. So we've spoken about all 4, we've seen how they all work, so now I want to speak about when to use which. Now I'm not going to break down this whole table verbatim because you can read it for yourself, but I would say Canvas apps are best for legacy maintenance, so anything that's already built on a Canvas app, quick prototypes and budget builds as well, right? That licensing consideration is super important, and I think Canvas apps still have that advantage here. Then model-driven apps, I think they're the best for enterprise apps and of course a CRM style application. And of course when you want Dataverse features involved like security roles and field level security, model-driven is the way to go and it's established. Code apps, if you want custom UI with governance needs. So that's when you want full flexibility and you want to deploy that into your Power Platform ecosystem. And Vibe apps, of course, so that's rapid prototyping and exploring different ideas, maybe mocking up an MVP. It's still in preview, so I recommend experimenting with it now, and you can do production stuff when it's ready for production. But I would say here we're just looking at experimenting more than actually using. So I can really see Canvas apps going into more of a legacy mode, model-driven and code apps taking over for the meantime, and even the potential of Vibe apps possibly replacing code apps if it becomes established enough. So here's my honest recommendation of where I'd put my time right now. Number 1 is model-driven apps. Learn them if you haven't already. The Dataverse, the security model, understanding business rules and the business processes, I think it's so important to understanding the rest of the Power Platform ecosystem as well. Number 2 is code apps, and this is where I think Canvas apps are heading. If you have any coding ability or are willing to lean on AI tools to bridge that gap a little bit, then start here. Code apps are generally available, they're real, they're ready for production, and they give you everything Canvas apps do, plus more. Just know that you need that premium licensing. Number 3 is Vibe apps, so you can just experiment for now and you can build later once they are generally available. And then finally, we've got Canvas apps where I think you can maintain existing apps, that's fine, but I don't recommend starting them new unless you're looking at budget constraints and requirements. Then I think Canvas apps can be useful, which is why they're still on this list, but I think they're the bottom of the priority. And what's awesome and something that people miss, and I mentioned it earlier in the video, but Vibe apps generate code apps. They're on the same technology, so when you learn code apps, you're also learning the output of Vibe apps, which is why I say code apps is the future of Canvas. Now, if you're watching this and thinking my team need to understand how to do this, then that's exactly what we do at Powercademy. We run hands-on workshops to get businesses in the Microsoft ecosystem up to speed with all of these changes in Power Platform and AI. And we cover all sorts of tools and approaches that I covered in this video. If that's something you need, then there's a link at the top of the description, so feel free to click that and find more information there. So, rather long video, so 4 new ways to build Power Apps in 2026. I'm really curious to hear what you think, so leave a comment, let me know what you'd like to see more of. I'm thinking about creating a video where we actually connect the real code app to a Dataverse table since we failed to do it in this video. But I'd love to hear what you think about this tooling, where you think it's going, and your opinion, genuinely. I do want to end this video by saying these are my opinions, of course, based on what I've seen in the ecosystem and where I see Microsoft putting their investments. But I'm super curious to hear yours, of course. Anyway, you stayed with me for a while, so thank you for your time in this video, and yeah, I will catch you in the next one. Take it easy.